We have seen over the last few years that the trend for video game pricing has been that full-price games are transitioning from $60 to $70. That's proven to be sort of a controversial shift. It was bound to happen at some point. Game prices go up, with the economy essentially and inflation and all of these different things, and game development getting more and more expensive as games become more and more sophisticated and more advanced and just more high budget. Now, whether you can justify a game being $70, I think really does depend on the game itself, its quality, and its monetization systems. But we have seen a number of companies jump on this bandwagon. You've got, your greedier companies like Take-Two and EA who started charging $70 for games that don't deserve that price point, games that are infested with microtransactions, the sports games in particular. But there are those games out there that are clearly so high quality and clearly a lot of manpower and resources were poured into it, and without featuring shady monetization, that it could be argued, okay, those types of games, you could maybe potentially justify $70. Regardless of where opinions reside on that front, the fact remains that the transition to $70 full-price games is kind of inevitable, and joining the fray is none other than Microsoft and Xbox. It was reported today by various news outlets that Microsoft will be raising Xbox first-party game prices from $60 to $70 in 2023. What that means is that some of the major upcoming games from Xbox, like Redfall, Starfield, and Forza Motorsport, will all be $70 instead of the usually expected $60. Microsoft actually issued a statement on this front. This is what they said. "We have held on price increases until after the holiday so families can enjoy the gift of gaming. Starting in 2023, our new built-for-next-gen full-price games, including Forza Motorsport, Redfall, and Starfield, will launch at $70 on all platforms. This price reflects the content, scale, and technical complexity of these titles. As with all games developed by our teams at Xbox, they will also be available with Game Pass the same day they launch." And that's an important point. They have not announced a price increase for Xbox Game Pass, so what that means is that we are ultimately getting better value amidst this transition towards $70 games. So Game Pass is currently, for Ultimate, which is sort of the best value, $15 a month. You get PC and Xbox games. You get both cloud gaming and local hardware gaming, among other perks, including discounts and you name it. At $15 a month was before, when games were priced at $60, you'd be essentially spending 3 AAA games, full-priced games worth of money per year for Ultimate. At $70, that number is closer to 2.5 games per year's worth of money for this entire library of games that also comes with first-party games on launch day. And what's important here is that players do have the option. Some people just don't dig subscription because the second they unsubscribe, they lose access to that whole library, so they like to purchase games at full price or wait for a discounted price. And no doubt that will happen eventually for upcoming games like Starfield and the like. They are going to be priced at $70, but they'll have sales here and there. And for those who, are able to afford that extra $10, are able to get the full game and actually, keep it without being tied to a monthly fee that maybe one day you will decide that you have no use for. Meanwhile, those who can't afford $70 per game, Game Pass is still just an incredible value that will not only get them all of those first-party games from Xbox, but also a bunch of other games from third parties in this pretty sizable collection of high-quality titles. So the fact that Game Pass exists as an alternative option and they're not raising the price for that means that it's easier to swallow this price increase to $70, and it's not a big surprise. The trend is going this way, so it was bound to happen eventually. They just have to make sure that the AAA games that do release at that price point justify themselves with the quality standards that people demand out of a full-price game like that. So hopefully Starfield, with its delays and with how much time they've taken with this title, will feel like one of the better, more polished Bethesda titles when it comes to the technical state of the game. And a game like Starfield being a single-player, campaign-driven experience with no BS monetization, or, not as far as we know. I believe Starfield won't have microtransactions, but who knows? Bethesda's been just a little shady in the past few years. But as far as we know, and fingers crossed, Starfield will remain not monetized through microtransactions. Maybe they'll do Creation Club stuff, which I hope they don't, but we'll see. But generally, Starfield is a full-fledged AAA game that is going to be a complete experience at launch, we hope. But basically, if Xbox can start releasing games that meet quality standards that, say, PlayStation first-party releases have met, I mean, God of War Ragnarok, I'd say, yeah, I'd be happy to pay $70 for that because it's very consumer-friendly and the quality really speaks for itself. People will find it easier to swallow that $70 price point. But I'm still very much in the stance of if your game includes microtransactions, it has no right whatsoever to raise the price because that microtransactions is very much the price increase for the game because any game that includes microtransactions will be negatively impacted on some level when it comes to the rewards loop or the content that you have access to. Stuff will be gated either behind a paywall or a grind wall, and so there's no justification for you to say, oh, we need to price our game $10 higher because we need to make our money back when you're already trying to make your money back through these monetization schemes. Games like FIFA and EA Sports titles and 2K Sports titles being priced at $70 plus, that's egregious right there when they make hundreds of millions off of their player card packs, gambling system in modes like Ultimate Team and whatnot. That's when like that extra $10 is just greed. You don't really need that extra $10. You just know you can follow this trend, ride the train, and gouge people more when you're already gouging them plenty through microtransactions. There are also other scenarios like Sony releasing Last of Us Part 1 at $70 that many people won't find justifiable when it's a remake and ultimately a beat-for-beat recreation of the original title. Yes, it does have enhancements, but it is missing multiplayer. It's not as feature complete as the old $60 priced release of this game. Stuff like that will rub people the wrong way. But if it's a brand new game and it's really freaking good and it shows that they poured a lot of money into this, a lot of resources into it, and it's monetized well, then people will be like, you know what, I want to support this project and this kind of game development. Now, also making it easier to swallow this pill on Xbox's side of things is that they've not increased the prices of their consoles. In fact, the Xbox Series S has actually gone down in price. I believe during this holiday period, essentially it's a temporary sale. Microsoft is essentially making Xbox consoles either as accessible price-wise as they've been or more accessible. Whereas PlayStation, if you recall, outside of the US, they've increased prices across the board, making them that much more unaffordable, especially during these rather uncertain economic times. So I do think Xbox, with a combination of Game Pass and their hardware pricing, are in a better position to do this as long as the games that are priced this way justify the price. What Sony's got going for them is the fact that games like God of War Ragnarok are so freaking high quality and are so beloved. I have little doubt that Nintendo will also eventually follow suit, though when they do, I hope by that point they have released the Switch Pro and their games start to feel more like they can take advantage of just more advanced hardware with better fidelity, because Nintendo Switch games are starting to show their age. It's clear that the Switch hardware needs a little sprucing up, needs a little juicing up to be able to keep up with more modern trends. So yeah, all in all, I'm pretty neutral about this news. It's not good news per se because things are going to get more expensive, but it's also not necessarily surprising. As long as the right conditions are met, people generally are willing to pay $70 for something that feels at that scale and level and that kind of consumer-friendly approach. But Microsoft does still have to prove themselves because they have been struggling with releasing their first-party projects at a consistent pace, but things are about to ramp up, especially in 2023 with the launch of games like Redfall, Starfield, and Forza Motorsport, alongside a bunch of other highly anticipated titles that are in development by the myriad studios that Microsoft acquired these past few years. So I do expect that to ramp up, but it's just Microsoft is still improving in their ability to consistently release, PlayStation levels of first-party exclusives that are at that level of high quality, at that level of must-have. If over the coming months and years Xbox can release a consistent stream of titles that do justify that $70 price point, then it'll be easier for people to swallow this pill and sort of normalize this trend as long as the right conditions are met. Hopefully the quality is there to meet the quantity and it's not just all quantity. But we'll see what happens. Until then, though, let me know in the comments below what your take is on Xbox deciding to increase game prices, next-gen game releases to $70 starting in 2023. Is it something that's generally expected and something that you can accept as long as specific conditions are met in terms of quality and monetization? Or are you in the camp of games should, remain at $60? It's still too early for that. Share your take on all of this in the comments below. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.